Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Veterans are the lifeblood of American freedom, serving in some of the harshest situations to secure that freedom across the globe. This is the Lounge with Legends show, celebrating their transformation from battlefield to business. The Lounge with Legends show with Marty the Moac Martinez and James A. Phelps, a.k.a. Spartan 6.
Hello and welcome to this week's installment of Lounge with Legends. We got James back this week. We missed you last week, Ranger Buddy, but you were out doing what you needed to do with your family.
I appreciate it. Everyone reached out to me. Family's doing well, but you did a great job, man. Without me, I was like, man, Marty's going to go at this alone. He doesn't need me anymore.
No way. No, always got to have a Ranger Buddy.
Airborne.
But so hey, here's a question we got. Being in Raleigh, what the heck's going on with gas down in North Kakalaki?
I tell you what, it's been a nightmare. You know, last night about 11 o'clock, 2,300 for, well, was it 2,300? Yeah, 2,300 for the rest of us folks out there. But we were at 60% loss of 60% of zero fuel. So basically, 60% of the stations last night at 11 were out of fuel. This morning, I just parked the trucks. Trucks are parked. I can't maneuver. So I planned, but unfortunately I didn't plan for the lines that are at the pump right now.
That's crazy. I mean, this morning we heard there's a guy here in Richmond, Virginia that jacked up his prices to like $6 and something per gallon, which is that's just cool and unusual. And this morning I filled up my little car. I got a Fiat 500, insert laughter, but
I'm laughing.
I know everyone's laughing, but it took me to drop off my child, wait in line, almost watch a fist fight. It took like an hour, and I only hold like 9 gallons in the dang Fiat 500. It was ridiculous. And I'm in Springfield, Virginia, so it's kind of crazy. But
well, I warned you last night. If you remember, I texted you. I said it's migrating north, so watch out. The fuel's running out down here in the south. So
I know.
Hopefully, they'll have an answer for it. Hopefully by tomorrow or by Friday, as I'm hoping.
I don't know. Might be getting that Prius.
Hey, my next vehicle. Hey, if you have stock in Tesla, it's time for me to purchase some stock in Tesla for sure.
Absolutely. So yesterday we were on Bathrobe Moments with Lauren Michaels Harris. That was a fun episode. Definitely different. He was. It's always fun whenever we're with Lauren, except when he makes fun of me. I don't like that. But
Well, that's why I like it, because actually it's an even playing. Normally I'm the one getting picked on by Marty, but when Lauren and I are together, it's a great time for some reason.
Hey, so this week we've got a special guest. We always have special guests, but this week we've got Bill Zinkgraf. But Bill Zinkgraf is I've known Bill for a while. He comes from my alma mater, Southwest Texas, now known as Texas State University. We were Bobcats way back in the day. So anyone who knows about anything about Southwest Texas State University, it is a miracle that we graduated. Fun fact, we both graduated. I think we'll have to get him on, but I think he graduated 2 years ahead of me, maybe one. I graduated in 2000, and I think we were both in the phys ed department. So I was health and fitness management. I think he was similar, but we'll have to.
You got a BS in exercise sports science.
Yeah, so same here.
I remember reading.
Yeah. So crazy. But now, now he's the CEO of SBTI. So, and he's still down in Texas, down in Wimberley, which is definitely God's country. I used to ride my bike all through that area, and it's awesome. But he's brought him on because he did some amazing stuff during OIF 1 back when it was the Wild Wild West back then. And so I said, he's got to come on, tell his story, talk about the impact that he had in OIF 1 and the tertiary effects throughout, and then what it did for him and for his business. And I was sharing this with James. Once Bill said he was willing to come on, I shared it with James, and it was like, I think James got it almost more excited than I did, because it was like, dude, this is going to be awesome. And I had to stop Bill. I was like, stop talking about everything you did, because you're basically going into the show, and I want it to be new and fresh. So,
right. I mean, it's super exciting. I mean, we'll get into it when he gets on here. I'm excited just because, the legacy and just the lives that he saved,
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. It's going to be amazing. I'm excited.
All right. So without further ado, let's get him on here, and let's get him on the main stage here. Get me off there. Bill, welcome to Lounge with Legends.
Hey, thanks, Marty. Thanks, James.
Yeah, brother. So do me a favor, introduce yourself real quick. I know I did a terrible job. I forgot what year you graduated. I think you were 1 or 2 years ahead of me. I graduated in 2000 from Southwest Texas.
Yeah, I graduated in 98, and I think I was coming out of OBC about 2000. So 99, 2000 was when I did officer basic course. I was graduated. I think I was one of the last lieutenants to receive a reserve commission in that time frame. So I was an Army reservist and went to OBC. After OBC, I joined a combat heavy unit focusing on construction and roads, and started my journey in process improvement and training to be a process improvement professional about that time as well.
Right. Yeah. So you did that, and then you were serving there in Texas in what unit there?
I was with the 980th. So they were headquartered out of Austin, and I served in the Austin unit headquarters and in the San Antonio unit.
Okay. Yeah, and so that's where you deployed out of to go to Iraq in OIF 1, correct?
Yeah, actually, I was cross-leveled to the 489th out of Arkansas, and completely different engineering specialty. They were core mechanized, so they were a tier 1 combat unit. So I had focused the years out of OBC on construction, and for combat, I got to learn a whole new system, which was the sapper system. So I was good at roads, bridges, and horizontal and vertical construction, and then I got to learn sapper on the fly.
Oh wow! What I'm sorry, James. What?
No, I was just. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so the interesting thing that already, that you talked about, you were in the reserve. So that means you probably had, I think I remember reading, you had like a 14-month probably mobilization, because you probably had to do train up prior to even getting into things. Right. Awesome.
Yeah, and I was employed at USAA at the time as a sort of junior executive, right on the cusp of director of the organization, and actually was attempting to go ahead and resign my commission at that point. I was just about at the right time to get out, and was going to focus on my professional career, and the Army had different plans.
Always does.
A lot of gear shifting there in about a week and a half once I got those mowers. Plus, I had to get in shape. I was in corporate shape. I was not in Army shape at that point, and especially not combat shape.
Did you have to go down to Camp Shelby, Mississippi for a train up, or where was your train up prior to?
No, our train up was, we actually mobilized to Arkansas, and then went down to Arkansas back to Fort Hood. And so we were in the chicken shacks in North Fort Hood, and there training up for desert warfare, which made perfect sense.
Right.
And that's the thing that a lot of folks that, Marty's coming off of active duty service. I actually spent some time in the reserves and National Guard. So there's a different perspective of just like, you're living your life, doing your full-time job, and then you get these orders, and then basically your life is put on hold or time out for a little bit. And then you come back. When you came back from that transition from that active duty tour, was your job waiting for you?
Yeah, USAA was amazing to deal with as a veteran. They did a couple of things that were pretty special to me. One of the things they did was ensure that my salary level stayed the same. So I submitted my Army paycheck and everything, and they would plus up my salary to where I didn't get a huge ding on the income. The other thing they did is they stayed in really good touch with me. My entire work department and my process teams, everybody stayed in touch with me through the deployment itself. And then when I got back, met with the CEO, sat down with all the senior leaders. They wanted to know about the experience. Just about everybody at USAA in the leadership chain was senior leadership chain was a veteran at that point. The CEO was a combat helicopter pilot. So in Vietnam, so he was really interested in my experience. So USAA was great during that whole deal. I just had a tremendously difficult time shifting from combat operations to corporate operations, and ended up taking another job that was more manufacturing based and sort of more in the trenches. Yeah, right after that. Wow. But nothing but good things to say about USAA and the way I was treated as a combat vet through that organization.
Awesome.
What were, do you mind talking about what were some of those challenges and then how did you deal with those challenges?
So one of the things that, and I still have a problem with, is dealing with excuses. When you're working with somebody or on a team, and I had a problem with it in the Army, but it let's just say it was inflamed afterwards. When you would start to go down the path of process improvement, there were certain type of people that are used to doing it that way, and you're hit with about 70, 80, 90 different excuses on why it can't be done. And I got to the point where that would just irritate the fire out of me, and probably not edit myself as well as I should have in a corporate role, and just start, just telling people, look, you're not paid for excuses, you're paid for results. Tell me what you need to generate the results. And I'm tired of the excuses. And it just got almost repetitive at that point. In the corporate world, just excuse after excuse after excuse why we can't change. When you see the evidence that you need to change and you're still hit with you can't change, that's it was something I wasn't very patient with.
You think that was because of your time while you were deployed?
Well, when you see when you see the possibilities and what can be done when people are proactive and change and aggressive towards meeting a problem or an issue that, you know, maybe hadn't been identified prior,
Right.
being able to close that gap and execute successfully and shut that problem down to the best of your ability. That's a neat cycle of success, and you want that more and more when you get into the situations where you see it. So when I got back into corporate, when we'd see a solution and I got met with excuses on why we couldn't implement the solution, it would just make me mad.
Right.
And about 3 times, I just said, look, I got to do something else. Love you guys, but I got to go. This culture is one of stagnation and not of execution. And so manufacturing and aerospace really afforded me the ability to get into a results-focused organization.
And I think part of that jump was because of what you were doing in Iraq with your IED program. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you've got to understand, when we hit the ground in Iraq, we were supposed to insert in Turkey and then go down and meet the 3rd Infantry Division in Tikrit. So they were supposed to push up from the Kuwait, and we were supposed to come down through Turkey with 3rd ACR. A last minute change there. Turkey said, no go, you're not going through our country. So all our stuff had to be boated back down to Kuwait, and we missed the day 1 of combat and got there about 12 days later. And so, you know, at that point we were basically idle. I mean, sappers have one role, and that's getting in front of everybody and making sure that the road's clear for the main element to move, and getting shot at. So main element moved, and there we were sitting in Kuwait, sort of picking our noses, wondering what sappers could do. So the IED problem didn't exist at that point.
Right.
We really didn't have a mobility or counter mobility mission of any sort. And as sappers, we don't have the equipment to do latrines like other engineers do. So, you know, the 3 big combat functions of the sappers are, you know, mobility, counter mobility, fight as infantry, and then dig latrines. And we couldn't do any of that. So, so we were somewhat idle. We went down to the port in Kuwait, and since we had a bunch of assault and obstacle guys that were heavy equipment certified, we were moving equipment on and off of the ships. And still at that point, the IED issue hadn't arisen. We started doing escort missions with our heavy machine guns and stuff like that. I think May, June timeframe, but still it was very limited. And then June, July is when the IED started happening. We saw the counterinsurgency ramp up. Iran started pushing special operations into the area. They started doing the IEDs, and that's when it became a problem. And so that's when you know, we started as a group of sappers saying, look, this is a mobility issue. We've got to figure this out. And at that point, we really didn't have the technology. We had M113A3s with light armor. We had unarmored Humvees. We had machine guns, and we didn't have any C4. So basically, we really didn't have anything to do anything with. And then a call came down at the port that they had a bunch of South African equipment that the Army had procured up in Baghdad International Airport. And this was all counter mine equipment. And they said, look, theater leadership said, look, you know, you're the only sappers in country. Why don't you get up there and look at this stuff and see what you can do? And that's where we got the RG31, which is basically an up armored tractor with low pressure tires that can run across about 30, 35 miles an hour and find roadside bombs or anything metallic in the ground on the side of the road. None of the mines in country were metallic at the time. They were all Russian non-metallic mines, so we couldn't find those. So the equipment was basically useless. But what was metallic was the munitions and the type of explosives they were using for IEDs. So, there's some inherent risks in going into something that is detonated by pressure, like a landmine. The Meerkat had the ability to roll over an anti-material mine without setting it off because it was low pressure rolling. But command det was completely different. So anything with I tell people to picture Wile E. Coyote with a little plunger. They would wait for a car to go by and they would hit that IED with electrical charge, set off the detonation cord, and then blow up. Right. So we had to mitigate our tactics for that. So with that package, we got the Buffalo, which was a 14-ton Mack truck with a digitally operated hydrostatic arm, so very finite ability to adjust and move. And we've got the RG-31s, which were a big deal on the RG-31s and the Buffaloes. They had air conditioners on it, so we thought we were rolling pretty high class there. Definitely better than that. Had dual, so man, that was luxury. We were more excited about air conditioning than finding IEDs, to be honest with you. So in the end, we got this entire package and had to figure out how to go after the clearest and most present danger to mobility, which was the IEDs. And we went from there. But yeah, we closed that gap with the technology not meant to be used to use that and solved a big problem. And so once you do that once, you want to do it a bunch. And I think that's what drove my impatience for solving problems in the corporate world too, is, hey, we're coming to a solution. Let's get it in. And when people wouldn't install it, it would just make me impatient.
Right.
Keep me up at night.
I remember that time too, because I was there, initial invasion, and that was a time where it was in the summertime, like you mentioned, where we started with the hillbilly armor. I was 82nd, so we started welding everything on and sandbags, and then the sandbags were actually doing more damage than anything else because it was blasting us and just burning us.
Right. We would sit on sandbags and put sandbags in our floorboards of the Humvee, which was not going to help anything. Right.
And so, yeah, we did that. We were welding the stuff on the sides and we were trying everything. I mean, yeah, it was crazy. We were even, but the ability, commend you guys for the ability to improvise, adapt, overcome, and save so many lives, because I was just north of Fob Falcon going towards the green zone over in Saddam's niece's palace. We used to tell everybody when they were trying to find us, hang a left over at Saddam's ass, which was funny because they tried to blow up the Saddam statue and it was just the top half blew off. And so it was literally Saddam's ass. And that's where we were over in Eldora. And so, but that was, I could definitely see where there is a frustration when you've done so much and you're like, once you have a team and you know what's possible, when you have a team, excuses in or out of the military start to get on your nerves because you know what can be done. You just need everyone to give way together, as we say, when it's doing Zodiac missions, just give way together. Everyone just grab an oar and frickin' paddle. Let's just stop working against me and move. And so absolutely. What was your biggest challenge with that? Was it selling the leadership? Was it selling your peers, subordinates, selling yourself? Were you concerned about some of this shit that you were putting together, as you MacGyvered this stuff, or what?
Well, the beautiful thing about sappers is they just want to fight. And I don't care if they're reservists or National Guard or regular Army. They want to be in the middle of the action. They run towards the gunfire and they run towards the booms. And so my guys would look at me every morning. I said, "You ready to go take it to the enemy?" And they said, "There's no better pleasure than taking our enemies' weapons away from them and not letting them use it." So my guys were 100% in. Now, of course, as a leader, and I had an augmented group, so I was for quite a while was leading about 60 people as a unit, self-sustaining in LSA Anaconda near Balad. So we had our engineering vehicles, we had our M11A3s, we had a couple ACEs, we had a few Cs, and crew serve weapons, and then we had our augmented South African equipment. And so what I did at that point is, when you're asking even a sapper to go sit on top of a bomb, whether you're an up-armored, basically bomb-proof tractor or not, you've got to get their buy-in. And so we took the Japanese mentality of Kaizen, or I took the Japanese mentality of Kaizen. I presented the problem, presented the capabilities that we thought we had, and then presented to the troops what we needed to be thinking about as a solution, and allowed them to develop the first round of tactics. So how are we going to go after these bombs? What's the formation going to look like? What's security look like? How are we going to execute to basic battle drills, near side, far side, ambush, sniper, artillery, whatever they might throw at us. Really, we were worried about 1, 2, 3 people at a time. We weren't worried about the larger elements engaging us. So we started initially working through all the battle drills. What does that element look like, and how is it going to move? What speeds are we moving at? How are we going to communicate? Direction of fire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to develop with that equipment all the basic infantry battle drills. And so we did that at first. Then we started going out on these the dirt airstrips and planting fake IEDs and running as a unit trying to find them. So we started figuring out the optimal settings for the Meerkat, because everything's adjustable on that. And you have about a 6-meter detection array, and we were figuring out how fast we could go and still find, and how small of things we could find. We were figuring out what's the best way to approach it with the Buffalo. We were training the arm operators on the Buffalo. We had a bunch of video game guys. Well, not a bunch. We had about 4 guys that were video gamers, and they were just studs on that arm. They could open a can of tuna with it. Just real finite movement. So, we started specializing and getting the guys that were good at doing what they were doing into the position to do it. So great drivers were driving, great tactile guys. Our video gamers were jamming on the arm. We had guys running the Meerkats up and down. And so really it was about a month of us sort of working towards notional situations and figuring out the capabilities. And then I had to go out and sell the operation to the command on the ground, which is a lot more difficult than what you'd think. It's like, hey, I got a way to go after IEDs, and they're like, yeah, no, you don't. We're already doing it. So they put a bunch of 11 Bravos in a Bradley on top of it and drive them down the road looking for IEDs. And you know what? That didn't work very well, but they were happy with it.
Is that when we were still shooting everything with 50 cals?
There's probably Marty that wasn't listening to you.
Yeah. 50 cals and Mark 19s were great at reducing them.
Yeah. So, Bill, I had a quick question in regards to, from a perspective, do you think coming from, a reserve unit, because you got to remember back, to 2011 or 2001 timeframe, you're talking about folks, there was a different vision or a different stereotype that the Guard or Reserve had. Do you think that being in the reserve unit and bringing those individuals from different backgrounds from the civilian world coming to you as sappers, do you think that was a combat multiplier and helped you, or do you think it was a hindrance and you had to train up to do your mission?
But there was certain things within the mission. You know, we had a lieutenant join us, and he was fresh out of Ranger school, and he's like, "Oh, you did this tactic wrong, and that tactic wrong, and this tactic wrong." And so, you know, things like was when you're running to get something at the end of the deal, stuff like that. We weren't wired tight. But my Meerkat operator was an executive chef. He ran a kitchen of 40 people. I had plumbers, commercial welders. I had people who had real jobs and real execution and managed people in real life. And so the intelligence for problem solving was huge. I had a wonderful group of people. Plus, they were all from Arkansas, so they were all squirrel hunters. They all knew how to shoot. They all knew how to hunt, fish, gather. They knew how to survive, and just good guys. So I'd say I was probably better off than an active duty unit on that on the ground mindset, and probably worse off on the little check the box stuff, because none of us did it. We had one mission, and that mission was to execute. Yeah, we wouldn't tell people where we were going, when we were going to be back, and what to do, because that didn't cross our mind. But also, those guys were smart enough to figure out if I wasn't back in an hour or two, that just Charlie Mike. So yeah, I mean, I think if you were an outside observer looking in, you go, man, you guys are ate up. But when you looked at holistically what we did, we were pretty successful, especially for a reserve unit.
Sweet.
Hey, I think we're going to cut to commercial here, and we're going to show the Humble Alphas, and we'll be back after this commercial break.
Perfect book for a veteran, especially if they've been struggling with transition or trying to find their place, or they haven't found that stride.
Is Annette Wittenberger. I am the founder of A Wild Ride Call Life, and
You're watching the Lounge with Legends TV show with your hosts, Marty Martinez and James A. Phelps.
Whoa, there's James.
Man, that's a good-looking guy right there. Good night.
This is great. So Bill, you've come up here. You're up in Iraq. You've created this awesome mission set. You've started to sell the mission, this capability, better get, the capability that you have for the mission. You've experienced some challenges. What are some of the things that you brought back with you, good and bad, from Iraq? When you came back, when you transitioned back home.
Yeah, I'll focus on the good first. I mean, I think bad, when you deal with bombs quite a bit, you don't sleep a lot, and thumps in the middle of the night keep you awake and stuff like that. But, just basics. Probably lack of patience. But the good stuff I learned very quickly is, number one, as a leader, my job wasn't to be the guy with the answers. My job was to figure out the talent around me. And there wasn't a lot I could do to augment talent or boot people. I could move somebody I didn't like the way they were operating to a position where I didn't have to operate with them. But I mean, really, in the reserves, you're not getting extra people, you're not getting extra talent. So my job was to figure out the strength of each individual and put them in position to leverage that strength. Like I said, I was construction engineering for about 4.5 years. That's all I knew is roads, bridges, and building combat camps. And then got slapped into a sapper position. My driver, Specialist Nick Jordan, was a walking dictionary of the sapper handbook. I mean, that guy knew it up and down and all around. And I'd be on the radio and I'd cover it up and say, "Nick, what do we do?" And he would start telling me what to do as a checklist as sapper. And I mean, so, again, as a first lieutenant, you're looking at a specialist, but the specialist had 10 years in and was just solid and brilliant. He's got a master's degree now and he's a history teacher. Just super smart guy. Leverage the people around you, put them in position to succeed. Don't be arrogant. And if you want to be the smartest person in the room, leadership isn't for you. So what I took from it is, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Right.
I've got the wrong people around me. I never want to be the smartest person in the room, which isn't difficult for the most part. The other thing as a leader is, when you find people who are talented in the areas that you need them to be talented in, let them execute. Mm-hmm. Don't get in their hair and bug them all the time and all that. Let them execute, set the goals, hold them to the goals, but allow them to execute, and they're happier and they're better. And that's what we did in the IED mission, is we allowed these guys to execute. My job was to hold the unit together, make sure that they had the supplies and everything that they needed to support the unit as a whole, and then make the hard decisions when the hard decisions came up within the mission, because there's a million decisions made every mile you go, but the hard decisions were for me to make, and it was my responsibility. And I told my guys, no matter what happens, I'm here to take responsibility. So you're free to screw up. I'm not going to hold it against you, and I'll take the responsibility. But we got to get aggressive, and we got to get smart about what we do. And really said, I'm here as a buffer. I'll take responsibility for anything bad that goes good, and you get all the credit for everything good. And so we really, as a leader, it taught me some quick lessons, and that was, surround yourself with people on your same mission, set the goals to where the people around you do drive to the same mission that you are on, and then allow them to execute. And if they can't execute, then you really have to change. But a leadership, my deal from leadership that I had to learn very quickly is, I didn't know everything, and I wasn't going to know everything, but I didn't know how to facilitate a conversation. And I had a bunch of really good sappers around me, and let them make the decisions and start to design that. So, by running the first IED missions, designing the TTPs and writing the TTPs, that is just a reflection of the people around me. That, I did the PowerPoint.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like the one of the biggest lessons that I think we all learned is leadership is about trust. You can't have all the answers, and you have to trust the other people in your patrol, the other people around you, to have the answers that you don't have. We only learn so much in our schools and in our training, and you've just got to trust the other people around you. I think you're spot on, Bill, and I think that taking those. Have you taken those with you to your current role as a CEO of SBTI?
Yeah, and in fact, so the SBTI story is a little different. My father started the company in '97, and when I got back from Iraq in 2004, I went to that aerospace group, and about that time, he had a massive bicycle accident where he was in a coma for almost 6 weeks. Severe traumatic brain injury, almost a vegetative state. They didn't know if he was going to be a vegetable or if he's going to be able to regain consciousness forever. And at a certain point, I was asked to come into the organization, not as a leader, but as sort of a mid-level guy at SBTI. So I owned the public and open enrollment course and a couple of the methodologies. And I just was watching after my dad as he was getting his legs back underneath him. So I'd go to rehab with him every day. I would sit in the hospital with him every day till he got out of the hospital, then to rehab and all that. And then watched his company. There was another president and a different group of vice presidents at the time, all very good people, but all were used to the old way of operating, which was high salary, and the work would come. Well, we got to a point in 2008 where the work didn't come. The economy took a splash, the work didn't come, and they were making bad decisions on what they needed to be paid, bonuses, et cetera. So I took over a company it had a couple $100,000 in the bank. They were losing money every day, and people weren't necessarily going out and doing the work they needed to do to execute. So, I had to walk into a company that was in dire straits, basically going out of business. And so what I invested in there was getting the people that were there and the talent that was there, and they're all very smart, very talented individuals, get them refocused on what needed to happen to get the company back in the black. And I adjusted everyone's salary. I was paying myself $50,000 a year to run the company. They were all at the point when I took over, 200 to 300K a year. I kept my salary where it was, adjusted every one of their salaries to where if they met the goals, they would make a lot more than what they were making currently. And if they didn't meet the goals, they were going to make a lot less. And that first cut, we saw who was in the company and who was out, and they walked. So I didn't really have to go in and fire people or do anything. People sort of self-selected there. And it was a different group than what I thought initially that stayed. So, I invested in changing the mindset of the people, and changing the goals of the organization. But it still had some, I'm struggling with the word. I don't want to make it too strong, but there were people that degraded my experience as a leader that stayed, and they thought they should have been the leader, and they thought they should have been the next person. So I had some subversion, and I had some stuff to deal with there. The problem was that they were producing revenue, and revenue at that point was, that was everything, because we were really struggling. So I brought in some new people. I moved some people around in the organization and started to get the revenue generating again. And was able to surround myself with people that were not necessarily subversive, but supportive. And I saw my entire experience as a leadership and as a person in my life change just because I was happier doing what I was doing. I was not fighting an internal fight against people that didn't think I should be there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I really managed the company through the entire culture change shift, which, we get as a consulting group, we get the question, do you have a class on culture change? And I was like, no, there is no class on culture change. Culture change is defined by individuals behaving differently in mass. And that's what I witnessed and walked the organization through, was changing the culture to an SBTI focused culture, and where everyone didn't think they were the smartest person in the room, but everyone was there to make the clients the smartest people in the room.
Nice.
Yes, we changed from the mentality that we needed to be the smartest people in the room to the mentality that we needed to enable people to be the smartest people in the room. So a servant leadership model. And we almost quadrupled our revenue in 3 years by doing that.
Hey, Bill, when you position yourself as not the smartest person in the room, in your opinion, where do you want to be? You don't want to be the dumbest person in the room either. Is there a certain where is it that someone is just too smart because they think they know it all, and where's that line? Do you have any opinion on that?
So when we're talking about processes, say we go in a hospital, we got a room full of nurses and a couple of doctors and a couple of administrative people. I'll look at them straight in the face and say, I'm the dumbest person in the room when it comes to your process. I don't have a flipping clue what's going on. But my job is to ask the best questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that's awesome.
I know what a process looks like, and I know how an effective process behaves, but I don't know anything about nursing or doctoring or healthcare administration. But I'm going to strive to ask the best questions of that organization and get them thinking about the process and get them coming up with the solution sets that need to come. So I position myself as the dumbest person in the room when it comes to the process, but where I want to be is asking questions that are going to drive the next insights.
Right. That's absolutely, and that's crucial. I mean, so my last job in the military was knowledge management, and that was understanding information flow, processes, how people think and make decisions. And then what was critical was understanding how an organization thinks, and then getting people to understand that organizations do think. There is an organizational thought. And so me coming in was always the exact same thing, Bill, was I'm the dumbest person in the room, and that's okay. I just need to pull the questions out of you to understand your processes, to understand how your organizations think, where you're putting the information and storing it, and how you're talking about the information, and then we'll help streamline it. And that's what I taught for the last 10 years in the Army. So no, that's awesome.
In Marty's defense, his the MOAC title was not given, or it wasn't self-proclaimed. It was given. So he's, the MOAC is not a self-centered
I hate that title.
Radio call sign.
We had a few officers that tried to give themselves call signs, and we changed them immediately.
Yeah. That could be a whole new episode, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no, we had one that wanted to be his call sign to be Samurai, so we all called him Suzuki over the radio.
Nice.
Marty called me Ninja, and I never could figure out why. So maybe one day he can explain that call sign.
I don't think I ever called you Ninja. I did call him Asian Persuasion.
That's another show in itself.
So Bill, let's say so you've been through a lot. So here's a question. I guess from an advice perspective, you get, because you're in Wimberley, you get one billboard to put on I-35 heading from from San Marcos up to Austin, and you get one billboard to put your message on there, what's that billboard going to read that you want everybody to read every day as they drive on I-35?
That's a good question. Really, I think that people need to appreciate the power that they have over their own mindset. If you want to be a victim, think of yourself as a victim. If you want to succeed, think of yourself as succeed. You've got the ability to do that as an individual. And it's just, drive your own destiny, drive your own future.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I agree. The power of the mind is you can't underestimate it. We mentioned yesterday we were on the show with Lauren Michaels Harris, and he talks about words that deceive. And so when people introduce themselves, what do you do? Well, I'm just why are you saying about that about yourself? I am just you're automatically demeaning yourself instead of, well, I am the, so the way you talk about yourself, what you're saying about yourself means things. So I think that's spot on. And I think it's great.
Well, I think you can just hear how Bill talks, just his mindset during the whole episode has been about others and service. Mm-hmm. And you can see that and feel that even, I know we're on a virtually, right? But you can still feel the actual genuine concern. And even now we could probably talk hours about your soldiers. You probably still consider them your soldiers. You probably haven't seen them in almost 20 years now. But I can tell that you lead with value and actually genuinely care. So I appreciate it, man. That's awesome.
No, it's been a great episode. And as we're getting to the top of the hour, Bill, the question that we ask all of our guests and we always close with is, you've sacrificed, you've served, and you've carried scars home with you, I'm sure. Freedom means different things to all of us, and especially those of us that served. And so we ask you, what does freedom mean to you, Bill?
I think my definition of freedom's changed over time. And I think, when I was younger, freedom was about me and what I could do and where I could go and what I was willing to surrender to the government or not surrender to the government is freedom. And from that standpoint, freedom is, the freedom to succeed or the freedom to fail. The more you're buffered from failure, the less free you are and the less likely you are to succeed. But where my opinion on freedom is now is I look at my kids. I've got 3 daughters, and freedom to me is that they can do anything and be anything that they want to be, period. They want to be a great parent, they can be a great parent. They want to be a CEO of a company, they can be a CEO of the company. They can go to any school and they can do anything they want to do. And that's what I fought for.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. Definitely agree. Well, I thank you for being on our show. And James and I both thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thanks
it, Bill.
for having
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, James, what a great episode, man. I know it's going to be great.
Yeah, just the lives that are effective in a positive way. How many lives were saved by his team? You know what I'm saying? We'll never know those numbers. Right. But that in itself, to me, is, Bill's got a great legacy, and it's always, just leading with value. And it just, even in the company that he has now, you could, sense it when he's talking about his, company now that he's a CEO. But I think, that's amazing. Wow.
It's powerful. And I think this goes back to what we talk about is, Lounge with Legends. Again, we're not the legends. It is the people that we bring on that come and tell their story. We know that there's secrets that they bring home with them, and getting a chance to talk about it. And hopefully people are watching these episodes and and knowing that there's people just like them out there that have a story to tell and go, wow, when things go, like Bill said, when things go boom in the night, it startles me. It startles them. It startles everybody. It's hard to sleep sometimes at night. And so you are not alone. But
that's the key. We're not all alone. We're out there and we're just doing the best we can. So, I had a couple messages about the commercials. Do you want to mention the commercials briefly that we showed today for sponsors?
Absolutely. So we've got obviously we've got Annette. What a great commercial. She's going to be our guest next week. And, to mention suffering in silence and your message, and it's okay not to be okay. She's going to come on and talk about her podcast and her book that's coming up. Her podcast is a wild ride called Life. And we've got the Humble Alphas, which is a humblealpha.com. They've also got a college course. Did you know that, James?
I did. I posted it in the comments.
Did you?
Absolutely. And I always carry my book with me. I'm telling you, I carry it around because I believe in if you're going to rep something, you need to actually believe in it. So that's why I carry this with me every day. So
I'm actually going to one-up you on that. I actually just bought the book for my mom, and she received it yesterday. She's reading it right now. I told Stephen that I bought it for my mom, and I bought her a copy so that she can donate it to her public library. So she's going to do that. She started reading it yesterday. She loves it. So humblealpha.com, check it out. And Stephen's going to come on the show in, I think, 3 weeks. And Lane Balone will be on. He's going to be on Bathrobe Moments with what's that guy's name?
Lauren Michael something.
I think so. Changed my existence. But he's going to be on tomorrow's Bathrobe Moments, 9 a.m. Bathrobe Moments on his channel. But I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you all next week with Annette Wittenberger when she's our guest. So any final remarks, James?
Just always a pleasure to be surrounded with like-minded individuals.
All right. And again, thanks for this week's legend, Bill Zinkgraf. And James, thank you for your service, and thank you for everyone's service out there that served.
Airbound.
You've been watching the Lounge with Legend show on E360 TV, countering the narrative that veterans are all broken misfit toys. Veterans are the lifeblood of American freedom. Serving in harsh situations, coupled with their training, have forged them into some of the most resilient and capable leaders in the world. And that's where we come in, celebrating the success stories, taking you on a journey of transformation from military to business. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back soon. But find us on Facebook at Lounge with Legend or at JTF214. Till next time.